The Tampa area is primarily made up of 3 counties, and one of them is poised to grow a lot. I'm Sam, and this is the Living in Tampa channel, and we make these videos for you to understand what it's like to live and move to the whole Tampa area. We also have a real estate team. If you're interested in any of that, we'd love to hear from you. You can call, text, or email anytime. Pasco County is the county on the north side of the Tampa area that is poised to grow exponentially. Not exponentially, that's probably the wrong word. It's poised to grow a lot in the next 25 years. And I've heard different numbers. Some people say 20 years, some people say 30 years. And the county is saying on their website over 25 years, but we're just 5 years into that right now. So this data started in 2020 all the way through 2045. And we're gonna look at this data together, look at the graphs, look at the maps, and talk about where the growth is going to happen based on these projections. But it looks like the population is gonna grow close to 1 million people in Pasco County. Now, that's almost double from where it is now, a little bit less. But let's look at where the growth is actually gonna happen, how they're still gonna preserve certain areas. And I also wanna point out the areas where they say it's not going to grow as much. There's very clear reasons why it's not gonna grow as much in those areas, but it's gonna take the map to show us that. So Pasco County, first of all, is kind of the third county of the Tampa area. Yeah, it's home to a lot of the suburbs that, feed the workers that go down into Tampa, but Hillsborough County being the main county where Tampa is, Pinellas County being the main county where the beaches are, Pasco County being on the north side and being a bit more rural in general. I live in Pasco County. I live on an acre. Now, just down the road is like Home Depot and Lowe's, so literally a mile away. So it's not like I'm out in the middle of nowhere, but it just is quite a bit more rural. It's even quite a bit more southern in Pasco County. And when I say southern, I don't mean to the south, I mean southern kind of thinking. And Florida kind of has this odd thing. Whenever you go north of Tampa on this coast and you go north of Orlando, kind of central, you're kind of in the deep south. And that's just kind of the way the state goes because it's grown from the bottom up in a lot of ways. With Miami, Naples, those areas down on both coasts, as you go up into like Fort Myers and Fort Lauderdale, you're kind of moving up the coast, and you kind of have Orlando and Tampa, these big central markets, and they're populated often by people that relocate from other places. So they have a very kind of mixed feeling. A lot of people from other states, not just New Yorkers, but from everywhere. And although Pasco County is a bit more rural than the other counties, it's also home to some of the nicest suburbs of the area. A lot of the master planned communities are in this area, and it creates kind of a different vibe. You also have nicer shopping areas in certain areas. We'll highlight that on the map here in a minute, but it's home to a lot of people that commute down into Tampa, especially in certain parts of Pasco County. And what that often means is a lot of these areas are kind of bedroom communities for bigger markets like Tampa and St. Petersburg and Clearwater, with nice communities in these areas, but not much else. That has changed quite a bit, and with this growth and with a rise in employment in this area specifically, those things are going to change even more. But let's go right to the county website. I just want to work through this with you and kind of explain it as I see it. All right, so this is a website made by Pasco County 2050, kind of looking at that whole projection of how this area will grow, specifically population and employment growth. Obviously, Pasco County has experienced growth over the years. Look at in 1970, there were 75,000 people in the county. Currently, there's a little over 560,000. And they're projecting it to grow to 785,000 by 2045. Some models project a little bit higher. Something I want to point out in here is that Pasco County since 1970 has grown by 600%. By comparison, within the same time frame, the state of Florida has only grown by 217%. So it has just grown significantly faster than the rest of the state, as the state has been growing since the 70s. And here, the majority of employment and population growth are anticipated to occur within the south and central market areas of the county. I want to show you specifically where those areas are on this map below. But first of all, look at this chart. This isn't that dramatic of an increase compared to this being a bit more of a dramatic change from here to here, from 2000 to 2020. The rate of growth was a bit higher here and then slowing down a little bit, but still going pretty fast. Let's look here at the map. I want you to see exactly which markets they're projecting to grow the most, and also I want to point out some of the reasons these markets won't grow in specific areas. So this is projected change in population and employment. So I don't quite know what that means. Is this like the population is 785 at that point and the total population and jobs combined is that amount? That's where I'm a little confused on exactly how they're framing this. I think that's what they mean. And that also shows that most people leave the county to work. So let's start here over on the coast with the West Market area. This is Hudson up here, and you have Port Richey. New Port Richey kind of winds back into here and all the way over to here. And then you have Holiday down here at the bottom, over here kind of by the Trinity area. Trinity area kind of being more part of the South Market. So in 2020, the population and employment here was 250,000, and it's only projected to grow to 280,000, partly because this area is a bit older and already a bit congested. Let's go to the North Market real quick. These are pretty rural areas. Once you go north of Highway 52 along here, this becomes a lot more open space, a lot more preserve, and this is projected to grow from 40,000 to 51,000. Now there are some bigger neighborhoods up here, but a lot of those are up here in Hernando County, where Spring Hill and Brooksville have been the ones to grow instead of this pocket of Pasco County. A lot of this is preserve land and wetland, which we'll see on a following map as well. Coming over here to the East Market, this is mostly Zephyr Hills and Dade City, and it's not projected to grow that much either, from 80,000 to 94,000, only 18% increase. The South Market here being the big grower all along this Highway 54 corridor, which you guys have heard me talk a lot about. Highway 54 is kind of the entry of all these suburbs into this area, with a lot of even the new development. Later, we'll talk about in this article the amount of buildings built after 2000 in Pasco County. The majority of them are like between Trinity and Wesley Chapel along this 54 corridor. Now there are places up here to the north where this kind of starts to grow as well. Up here this is Land O'Lakes. This part will turn orange eventually. This is the Angeline neighborhood. And then up here there have been a few other neighborhoods developed just off of Veterans Expressway. Then over here as you go east, you're in Odessa. Just along here, you go into Land O'Lakes. A little bit of this is Lutz. And then this part right here is Lutz, and then this is Wesley Chapel going up to this orange part, and over here into a little bit of Zephyr Hills. There's some lines over here where it seems like Wesley Chapel, but it's actually Zephyr Hills, and it gets a little bit blurry, partly because these are unincorporated parts of the county as well. So this area is projected to grow from 223,000 to 426,000 employment and jobs. So that one is almost doubling, 91%. So then the Central Market here projected to grow 83% from 108,000 to 198,000. So growing by 100,000 in the central area. This is a lot of the older areas and occasional newer neighborhoods, but quite a bit more of the more established Land O'Lakes area right here, and then some of the more established Wesley Chapel areas over here, with a couple new communities up this way like Epperson and Murata. Also in this Central Market is a big portion of Odessa and New Port Richey. So I live right around here, and this area is kind of projected into that growth as they're building a couple new neighborhoods over here. This road here now connects all the way over. This is a little bit older map, but this road connects all the way over to the Veterans Expressway. And then the southern part of this being some New Port Richey and some Odessa, but most of this is actually this Starkey Preserve, which is 18,000 acres or something of preserve right there all along this road. So I'm surprised that all of this is in the 83% category and more of it isn't over here. In the midst of all this development, something that is very encouraging to me is the 30% of Pasco County is preserve. Not meaning they have to tear down the woods, meaning they can't tear down the woods because it is necessary for the ecosystem. And Florida is very protective of this. I even remember when I first got my real estate license reading about how when neighborhoods reach certain sizes, especially in terms of acreage, in terms of residents, they have to have all these kind of planned developments in them, like wetlands, like stormwater systems, like forests, some areas. The state imposes these laws on the developer to make sure they develop according to state preservation. And Pasco County is a third preserve. Yeah, it's grown a lot and it's going to continue to grow a lot, but a lot of the land is still preserved. I think that's pretty cool. All right, back over here to the map, you see existing demographics. These are just education levels. So 90% of Pasco residents have their high school diploma, 24% have their bachelor degree, and the median household income is $53,000. And you can see in some of these suburbs, it's just quite a bit higher. So that would be the $75,000 range. And there's a lot of, this is Trinity over here. This is Odessa, Land O'Lakes. This is, a little bit more of Land O'Lakes. And then this becomes Wesley Chapel over here. Then you have these nicer neighborhoods up here where people just make more money and then they drive down the interstate or they drive down the Veterans Expressway down into Tampa to work. And 11% of residents in Pasco County living below the poverty level. You see those are mostly in the areas that are not poised to grow. This west market has pockets of that, and then this east market has pockets of that as well. And those projected to grow 11% here in the west and 18% here in the east. This map here demonstrates the current land use. So currently 49.6% of the land in Pasco County is recreation, open space, agriculture, and water. Like I said, a lot of that is not going to change. Currently 19.7% residential. So if the population is going to double in size, then we're likely going to get, close to 40% residential. Wow, that's a lot. So like there's not a lot you can take stuff from. 7% is vacant. And then obviously some of it can be taken from this open space, because if that goes down to 30%, that gives actually 20% to go here. So the biggest impact is going to be on this vacant land right away. That's going to get eaten up in development, and then some of this open space. Here you can see, based on this 19% residential, these areas just kind of hug this 54 corridor, and they hug some of these roads. Then they hug this little shape over here and kind of over here. But they mostly hug this southern area and then over here to the northwest, where it is some of this area, reminder, is not poised to grow very much. And you can see it's pretty congested in some of these areas as well. When it comes to the 49% that is recreational, open space, agriculture, or water, you have big chunks up here that are also poised not to grow because they can't. This is like a flood retention area. Some of this is wetlands. You have the green swamp over this way. A lot of this other stuff is just that. This is the Starkey Preserve right here that I was talking about. That's also in that high growth area in the 80-something% of the central market, but maybe it's just going to grow all around it. And then finally, before I wrap up thoughts here, let's look at the development patterns. So no data, obviously the white stuff we don't know anything about. From 1900 to 1980, it was just this lighter color that developed. So you see a lot of that is over here. Some of that is through Land O'Lakes here in the middle. And then over here in Zephyr Hills and Dade City, this is more like farmland area. From the 1980 to 1990, you see this darker area where you see little areas start to pop in, but then it's the next phase, 1991 to 2000, where you see the orange come into here and start to fill out some of these areas. But since 2001, you've seen these suburbs grow. 2001 for the pink, and then the darker purple here is all the way up to 2021. And that is all of these neighborhoods being built out along this 54 corridor and then up these roads like we've talked about. Personally, I love living in Pasco County. I love how preserved it feels. And if you're here right now, or if you were here 20 years ago, it feels congested, but it's going to keep growing, and you have to see the bright side of that. What is the bright side of that? It means more amenities. It means more income coming into your area. It means more jobs in your area. So maybe we stop operating so much like a bedroom neighborhood, and we really kind of stop having to commute so far as more jobs come into the area. I think that will be the biggest benefit overall. With jobs and growth come better schools, come better infrastructure. Hopefully those things come. But I just wanted to give you some insight into this potential growth that we're gonna see in Pasco County. I'm curious your thoughts on this. I know if you're a local, you hate it. For the most part, that's the consensus I get. As the realtor, obviously we'd love to help you buy and sell real estate, but it does pain me in some ways that there are areas where we can drive and not see houses. And I think we might reach a point in Pasco County here in the next decade where there are just a lot less of those. And I don't love that. I like the kind of isolated feeling. Maybe everyone that likes that isolated feeling is just going to move further and further out, and the Tampa area will just continue to grow. Right now, there's about 3.5 million people in the Tampa area. Where I grew up in small town Oklahoma, there's about 9,000 people. There's 3.5 million people in the whole state of Oklahoma. So Tampa is a big city. It's a big metro. It's going to keep growing, and hopefully we keep creating jobs and keep creating neighborhoods and communities and an experience that people move to because they really love it. They really want to. So as always, we'd love to hear from you. If you made it this far in the video, give us a call, text, or email anytime. Thanks for coming by.